Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down my top 36 running back rankings and tiers for week number 1 of the 2024 fantasy football season. But before we break on down these running backs, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, that you please make sure to leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. If you would like access to my weekly rankings and tiers for all positions updated all the way through Sunday, you can check out the Patreon. Link in the video description for $7.50 a month. And also, I would like to let you guys know that I'll be live streaming tonight if you're watching on Thursday, prior to Thursday Night Football, answering all of your guys' questions. So make sure you guys check that out. So without further ado, let's get on in to my week number 1 running back rankings and tiers. We begin with the S tier at the running back position, running backs 1 through 5 for week number 1. Now, these are going to be the guys that are ranked inside of the S tier for the majority of the season. Why is that? Because regardless of matchup, whether they're going up against the 85 Bears, the AFC, NFC All-Star defense, or if they're going up against the Stevie Wonder School of the Blind, you are going to want to play them because they are the best running backs in the National Football League. Now, there's going to be weeks where they have a little bit tougher of matchups, and maybe they fall on down to the A tier, and maybe there's some other running backs that really impress, and they move up into the S tier due to their matchup. But there is a reason why you drafted these guys in either the first or the second round of your 2024 fantasy football drafts, and that is because they are really good. They are the cream of the crop at the running back position. So in week number 1, they are going to stay at the top, the kings of the running back position in fantasy football, with my top 5 here on the week. At number 1, we got Christian McCaffrey up against the Jets. Don't care about the matchup. Doesn't matter. The calf is fine. He's going to finish as a top 3 running back. You can virtually guarantee it. He could score 2 or 3 touchdowns in any given game, score 30-plus fantasy points, and it would be a surprise to nobody. Bijan Robinson going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 2. Breece Hall going up against the 49ers in San Francisco at number 3. Jonathan Taylor going up against the Houston Texans at number 4. And number 5 is Saquon Barkley going up against the Green Bay Packers in Brazil. Now, Saquon Barkley is a guy that I consider dropping down into the A tier, not because of his talent, but because of the fact that this game is played in Brazil, not at home in Philadelphia. And typically when the games aren't played in the U.S., regardless of how fun the matchup is, right? Regardless of how on paper this could be a matchup that is an absolute shootout, Revolutionary War style, where the U.S. is shooting at the Redcoats and they're just exchanging kills because they're using muskets and they're just standing in a line, which to me still makes 0 sense. I studied history. I still do not get why they did that instead of, just hiding like Mel Gibson in The Patriot, using his sons like toy soldier guys, and he melts them down and kills the Redcoats. What a film that is, but that has nothing to do with anything. The matchup might go a little bit funky in Brazil, but Saquon Barkley is still one of the better running backs in the NFL and still has huge upside in Philadelphia. So all the guys in the S tier, I don't need to spend 5 minutes on each guy, glazing them, doing tricks on it, giving them the Gawk Gawk 9000 special. You already know you want to be starting them. Moving on into the A tier, there are so many dudes in this tier that I had to shrink myself down like the mini-me guy in that movie where he's like $1 billion. If you know, you know. Travis Etienne is my running back number 6 going up against the Miami Dolphins in Miami. If I know one thing about the Dolphins defense as a Dolphins fan, is that while the Dolphins secondary, the other pieces seem to just keep getting better and better, the run blocking just never works. Doesn't matter if you put Aaron Donald out there, the Dolphins defense is going to get a train ran on them by the opposing running back. It could be me, you, the Grey Goose, it could be anyone out there, and the Dolphins defense won't be able to stop the run. So while I do think this game might get away from the Jacksonville Jaguars, Travis Etienne is going to run free like Willie in this matchup. At number 7, we got Jahmyr Gibbs, just like with McCaffrey. No need to worry about the injury. Jahmyr Gibbs will be good to go in week number 1. The Rams losing Aaron Donald is definitely a large blow to the defense. Jahmyr Gibbs could be getting held down in this spot, And even still, all it takes is one dump off from Goff, and the guy's going directly to the crib. Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy that I loved in the fantasy football draft process, and I'm not about to change my opinion in week number 1. At number 8, we have Rachaad with 2 A's White. Now, Rachaad White is a guy that I didn't love so much in the fantasy football draft process, not because of the fact that I think he's a bad player, but because of the transition at the offensive coordinator position, losing Dave Canales, who's now the head coach of division rival Carolina Panthers, I thought could end up sinking the battleship of Rachaad White. Now, that is far of a guarantee. That is just an assumption, but they also draft Bucky Irving, so it's not like Rachaad White is the clear only back there. But they're going up against the Washington Commanders, a defense that sucks more dick than Mia Malkova, so Rachaad White should be in for a huge showing. At number 9, we got Devon Achane of the Dolphins going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I was someone that was the cadet of the Devon Achane hype crew. I was the general. There were people talking about how they're not too sure about him. He was too good with efficiency, so we can't repeat it. The Dolphins defense, or the Dolphins offense, won't be able to keep up with him because they have Raheem Mostert, this, that, and the other thing. I believe he gets a bigger cut of the offensive pie this season. The Jaguars defense is supple for the taking, and I think Devon Achane could rip off the running back one game. At number 10, we got Derrick Henry going up against the Kansas City Chiefs tonight. I'm so excited football is on tonight. The King moves from Tennessee to the Baltimore Ravens on one of the most run-heavy offenses in the NFL. We saw Gus Edwards score 13 touchdowns on this team, and I think Derrick Henry could score 20 total touchdowns this season. The matchup on paper isn't the best, but he's the King. You are going to rank him inside of the top 10. At number 11, we have the other running back in this game, Isaiah Pacheco. Now, the addition of Samaje Perine definitely doesn't make me super excited, right? I'm not ecstatic about that for Pacheco, and I think it could lessen his pass catching upside, but we did see the team heavily lean on Isaiah Pacheco late on in the season last year, really give him that workhorse running back workload, give him a lot more pass catching opportunities, and I believe that will be the case this season as well. I was big on Isaiah Pacheco all summer, and I ain't stopping the bus. I'm not pumping the brakes here up against the Ravens defense. So Isaiah Pacheco up against the Ravens defense that lost a couple of pieces. I think Pacheco should be a surefire top 12 running back. And you want to know who else I love in this Chiefs game? It is Travis Kelce, who is your free pick on Underdog Fantasy for tonight's game. If you are new to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code Notorious, you'll receive bonus cash of up to $1,000 with a minimum of a $10 deposit, as well as a free pick like Travis Kelce higher than half of a yard. You match Travis Kelce with a player from Thursday Night Football. You could match him with any player on Friday Night Football, anyone playing on Sunday or Monday night, and you'll receive 3 times your entry as long as both of the picks hit. Underdog Fantasy is the sponsor of today's video. I love using Underdog Fantasy, so make sure you guys check them out. Link in the video description, promo code Notorious, or click on the link in the video description to get that free pick plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash. And let me know down below in the comment section who you guys got tonight, the Chiefs or the Ravens. I'm thinking the Chiefs, but I'll probably end up betting the Ravens +3. Isaiah Pacheco is, again, we already talked about him, just a closing argument here. He's amazing. He runs like he's mad at the ground. Super fun to watch. This could be a super duper fun game where I think the running backs are going to be uber involved. So both Pacheco and Henry rank inside of the top 12. Closing out the top 12, but still in the A tier, is James Cook of the Buffalo Bills going up against the Cardinals defense. You could say whatever you want about James Cook in the offseason, right? You could have been off of James Cook. You could have thought, hey, the touchdowns aren't going to bump up like I believe that they will. James Cook is hashtagged cooked in Buffalo. The Bills are going to implode on themselves like the guys going to go look at the Titanic last year. Regardless of what you think about that, it doesn't matter to me because he's going up against the Arizona Cardinals defense that couldn't stop a nosebleed. James Cook is going to have a huge showing here, whether you like it or not. At number 13, we got Josh Jacobs going up against the Eagles in Philadelphia. This should be the game where Josh Jacobs genuinely has the highest amount of a snap share this season because of the fact that A.J. Dillon is on an IR, and despite that, they still have Marshawn Lloyd. They have other backs, but Marshawn Lloyd is also banged up. So I think while they do want to spread the wealth around in the backfield, they don't want to just make Josh Jacobs this crazy workhorse like he was in Viva Las Vegas with the Raiders. I do think in game number 1 here, we do see a huge workload for him. And how tiers work, I didn't explain it. I think a lot of you guys know. But if you're in the S tier and you're like, Nick, I want to rank Breece Hall number 1, I'm not going to argue. I view these guys all in similar fashion. So if you had Jacobs as the running back 7 instead of the running back 13, I'm not going to have too much of an argument with you. To close out the A tier, we got Kyren Williams going up against the Detroit Lions in Detroit. Now, last time these two teams played in the playoffs, Kyren didn't have all that great of a game. But what I will say is that while everyone got their panties in a bunch, all worried about, oh my God, he's returning kicks. Well, guess what? Blake Corum is returning the punts. He's returning the kicks. They want to use these guys. I get they brought in Blake Corum for a reason. They're going to reduce Kyren's workload. But the reason why they want to do that is because Kyren was getting an absurd amount of touches all of last season, and they want to reduce that to make sure that he is able to stay healthy. So Kyren is a guy that has top 5 upside in any given week. All the guys in the S tier, all the guys in the A tier would be the guys that I'm not blinking an eye. I'm not losing sleep at night if they're a top 5 running back because I could easily see it coming. Moving now to the B tier here. We've got guys that are also must starts, but they're just a tier below the A tier guys: Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, and Joe Mixon. Now, Alvin Kamara was a very divisive pick in fantasy football drafts. He's old, inefficient, but Derek Carr's a check down merchant, so I like Alvin Kamara, because in PPR, half PPR, Kamara could be a guy that ends up with 10 plus targets in any given game. While I think that Derek Carr sucks to high heaven, I think that Alvin Kamara is going to end up having a very solid performance in this game, especially up against the Panthers defense. He doesn't get the knock to go up into the tier above strictly because of his inefficiency and the fact that he could get vultured by a guy like Jamal Williams or by Taysom Hill, the Swiss Army knife. But when push comes to shove, I just really like Alvin Kamara. Kenneth Walker going up against the Broncos defense, another one of those defenses that couldn't stop a nosebleed. They let the whole Miami Dolphins team run a train on them last year, Bukake style. It was so bad that Robbie Anderson scored a touchdown last season, the chosen one, Robbie Chosen Anderson, whatever name he decided to choose this morning. I think it's Chosen Anderson, but I might be wrong. Kenneth Walker could be the chosen one in this spot, though, because again, the Broncos defense reeks to high heaven. I think Kenneth Walker should have a very solid game. Now, I am interested to see what the workload split is between him and Charbonnet, but based upon the fact that the beat reporters were beating off Kenneth Walker all offseason long, based upon the fact that the offensive coordinator, the head coach of the Seahawks, really seems to want to use Kenneth Walker a ton. If he stays healthy, he could easily outperform where I had him ranked in the offseason, and this is a very solid matchup for him. Joe Mixon going up against the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. This game could be very high scoring. Joe Mixon really wasn't healthy for a lot of the offseason process, so they may look to use the just the tip technique here and ease him in slightly. But even easing him in, it's not like they're going to, do a complete 180 and hand the ball off to Cam Akers or Dameon Pierce a million times. So Joe Mixon could easily score a touchdown here and was very solid on a bad Bengals team last season. He's just like Alvin Kamara, except for Alvin Kamara looks a lot more washed than Mixon does. The reason why Kamara's ranked higher, though, is because I don't think Mixon's going to get 10 targets in this game, but I think Kamara could get he legitimately could get 15 in this game. Next up, we move to tier number 4, the C tier here, and we got running backs 18 through 22. Just kidding. It's running backs 18 through 23. Now, I'm not here to slander Taylor Swift, but I wonder how many times we're going to see her tonight, right? Because they won the Super Bowl. Maybe she'll hoist the banner, right? You never really know. Raheem, the wet dream Mostert up against the Jaguars. While I love Achane, while I am an Achane stan, I know how things are going to go. They are going to give the ball a decent amount to Raheem Mostert as well. And Raheem might even end up leading the running back core in terms of touches, and he could definitely outscore Achane in this matchup. While I do think that the amount of touches that Connor, who's ranked behind him, could get might be higher. Montgomery, Jones, Najee, because maybe they do really shift to Achane. I think the Dolphins are going to score a lot. They have one of the best run scheme offenses in the NFL from the Shanahan tree. So until Mostert fails me, he's going to be a top 18 back. At number 19, we have James Conner. So this is running backs 18 through 22. I guess just when I messed with something inside of the rankings where I make my rankings, it ended up messing with the number because Raheem was number 18 and it said Conner was 20, even though he was number 19. A little behind the curtain look here at what I'm staring at while I'm talking to you guys. James Conner up against the Buffalo Bills. This game probably will end up potentially being a blowout, which will hurt James Conner's value because they're not going to be able to run the ball as much. But James Conner is a competent enough pass catcher to feel confident ranking inside the top 24. At number 20, we got David Montgomery. David Montgomery is going to be one of the most safe running back twos every single week. You know the Lions are going to score a lot of points. You know the Lions have a great offensive line. And if Montgomery could score a touchdown or two, you're going to end up being very happy with him. If he doesn't, you're probably fine with him finishing around the running back number 24 based upon where you drafted him. At number 21, we got Aaron Jones going up against the New York Football Giants. First game suiting up for the cold like Minnesota Vikings up against a pretty so-so Giants defense. I believe that the Minnesota Vikings offense is going to look to run the ball a lot more than prior years. With Kirk Thuggins under center, they were really a very pass-heavy attack. But I think with Mono Man Sam under center, they are going to try to establish the run. They also have another running back behind Aaron Jones who is competent. It's no longer that bum Alexander Madison. They actually have Ty Chandler who looks pretty decent. So Aaron Jones, he's great. I think he's a very talented player. Ripped off multiple 100-yard games to end last season. But I kind of want to see his workload before I go hog wild and rank him higher than this. But he feels pretty safe in my opinion. At 22, we got Najee Harris. Now, Jaylen Warren probably will play. And that kind of sucks for Najee, but I don't imagine the team really throws Jaylen Warren out to the Wolves and gives him like some crazy workload here. Falcons defense pretty meh. Najee pretty meh as well. But again, the drum beat out of camp was pretty heavy onto Najee Harris. And with Jaylen banged up, I just think he should be a top 24 running back. Now we move on into tier number 5, the D tier. And this is where we have a ton of running backs again, right? The A tier was loaded with running backs, and so is the D tier. Running backs 23 through 31. 23 is Zamir White. Last time he played up against the Chargers, he had a game. He played very, very well. But I want to tell you guys to, kind of take that with a grain of salt, right? Looking at, Zamir White had a great game against the Chargers last time. He's going to have a great game again is kind of a foolish way of thinking. Now, does that mean that he can't have a great game? Of course not. He obviously can have a great game, but I don't want to just take the stats from the year prior and say that's guaranteed to happen, right? Anthony Richardson played like 33% of the snaps up against the Texans last time these two teams played, and he scored 17 fucking points in 32% of the snaps. So is he going to score 50 gazillion points this game? Probably not, right? So again, take it with a grain of salt. I can mention it, but it's not life or death. Zamir White's a guy that I like more than most fantasy players. Most fantasy players believed he was a clear dead zone running back. He is the clear Fugazi pick that every year we buy into, has 4 or 5 solid games at the end of the season, and then you draft him next year at a highly inflated price, and he ends up being a bust. Zamir White was drafted not in the range, though, to where if he was a bust, it completely ruins everything, right? Because Zamir White, a couple years ago, would have been like a top 4-round pick, whereas he went like round 6 or 7 in a lot of leagues. The Raiders are going to be very run heavy, so I think he's going to be a top 24 back a bunch of weeks just on volume alone. Jerome Ford, F-150, running back 24. I wanted to rank him way higher, but I wasn't able to due to the matchup up against the Cowboys. I think Jerome Ford is going to be extremely good while 9-inch Nicholas Chubb is still rehabbing from that crazy-ass injury last season. If Jerome Ford has a stranglehold over this backfield for like like half the season or maybe even the whole season, which is possible, Jerome Ford is going to end up being one of the best sleepers in your draft, which is what I said all offseason. But up against the Dallas Cowboys, we can't really pump up his stocks too much. Can't really give him the Suka Lamink special here. At number 25, we got Javonte Williams going up against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. I am very interested to see what the workload looks like between Javonte as well as Jaleel McLaughlin. I think Javonte will be the clear number one guy there and be getting a bunch of pass catching opportunities. But as we got later and later on into the summer, we kind of started to hear more reports about Jaleel getting more run than I previously would have thought, but I'm going to stay with my previous thoughts. I'm not going to completely change my prior opinions, which is something that everyone's going to do, right? You see one game, you're going to see all these games, right? And there's going to be people in the comment section that are like, Nick, you were so wrong about this player. He had a bad game. You like this guy all offseason? He sucked in week one? Let me drop him. Let me trade him, right? And then 3 weeks later, when the guy's a top-end player, you're like, fuck, I'm stupid. I dropped him. I did this. I did that. Don't panic after week one. Do not panic. Do not panic. I'm riding with Javonte as a top 25 back. At number 26, we got Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is essentially the missionary sex of a running back. And what I mean by that is he gets the job done, right? You can have a kid from that method, right? You're going to have a fun time. You can stare into the woman's eyes and pound her like you want to, right? But there's more fun things you can do, right? You can do the reverse cowgirl. You can do the fucking wheelbarrow position. You can do all types of stuff doggy style, right? But Devin Singletary is the missionary, right? He's the guy that he gets it done for you. He's going to get a bunch of volume. Tyron Tracy's coming off of an injury. He's the clear number one guy up against a pretty mid Vikings defense. So he's going to be fine on volume alone, but he's never really going to take things over the top, right? You're not busting in 0.7 seconds from missionary, but, if you put a girl in the wheelbarrow position, you might have never felt that before, and your willy might be exploding Mount Vesuvius style. So Devin Singletary feels fine inside of the D tier, but what's he gonna, the reason why I kind of say this, and I know it's a joking fashion, but what are the odds Devin Singletary is the running back 5? 0, right? Unless he just gets 30 carries and somehow scores 2 touchdowns, right? But he's on the Giants offense as well, which kind of demeans him. At number 27, we got Ramondre Stevenson. Now, I'm a big fan of Stevenson. I believe he should have gotten paid. He deserves all the money that he got. Problem is, the offensive line is trash. The offensive line is a turnstile. The offensive line is going to get plowed like some soil in this matchup by the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Patriots quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, isn't the best. So they're going to be down in games. They're going to have to get away from the run. There's talks of Antonio Gibson getting a little bit more usage. Ramondre is kind of another guy like Singletary. He's just going to get it done for you. Just fine enough if you went 0 running back or 0 running back and he's your running back 1 or 2. Just good enough. But nothing to write home about, right? Number 28, we got DeAndre Swift. Now, I hate DeAndre Swift this week because I'm nervous about him. I talked all offseason about how I didn't love Devin Singletary. Now, not Devin Singletary. I didn't love DeAndre Swift. Why is that? Because while I think DeAndre Swift's a talented player, the fact that he's been passed around to 3 different teams, he's getting passed around more than Galaxy Gas. If you guys have ever seen that on TikTok, don't do Galaxy Gas. I'll tell you that much. But getting passed around like the blunt at a party, right? He's on the Eagles. He's on the Lions, and now he is on the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams, traditionally at USC, didn't check the ball down a bunch. In preseason week 1, where Swift played, so did Khalil Herbert. Herbert got all the touches. Swift got a dump off, took it for 40 yards. The offense should be electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. So I think DeAndre Swift will probably be okay, but it's in game 1, even up against the Titans defense. Do I really want to chance it? Because this could be a straight up 50-50 split, or even worse, a split in favor of Khalil Herbert. At number 29, we got Zach Moss. Now, I think that the Bengals are going to be pile driving the Patriots in this game. I think they are going to be dicking them down, and it's going to be great to watch. But they still have Chase Brown. Zach Moss is listed as the number 1 on the depth chart, but if you take the depth chart as the gospel, then I've got something else to sell you, because the depth chart is a liar. The depth chart is not always true. So Zach Moss, I like him better than Chase Brown, who's in the next tier. Spoiler alert. And I think if they're up big, they're going to run a lot. Zach Moss, very talented, but we kind of need to see it, right? With our own 2 eyes. I need to see it before I can truly rank either of these guys much higher than this, even if the upside is higher. At number 30, we got Chuba. Chuba is basically just like Devin Singletary. He's on a team that's pretty shit, but I actually think the Carolina Panthers are going to be a lot better this season. The Saints defense does shoot shivers down my spine like a spooky, scary skeleton. So for that reason, I'm out. Like the guy on, is his name Damien from Shark Tank? Shout out Mark Cuban, who's on that show as well. Chuba Hubbard feels fine, right? Like, if this was a better matchup, I'd have him ranked higher. I think the Dave Canales system is awesome. I love Jonathan Brooks and think he's going to be a superstar, but until he comes back, then Chuba Hubbard's just going to be the guy getting some solid points for you. At 31, we got Brian Robinson. Now, Brian Robinson, I would lean with him over Austin Eckler. Why? Because Austin Eckler last year looked washed, and Brian Robinson looked solid on a team with a terrible offensive line. Now, if Brian Robinson's targets get completely siphoned away and Eckler's playing a lot more, then that's bad news bears for Brian Robinson, which is why he's ranked at 31 and not like running back 24, even though the Buccaneers defense really isn't all that great. So Robinson could have a day, but the offensive line is trash, and they bring in Eckler, so it's just a couple of concerns. Moving into the final tier here, we got running backs 32 through 37. At number 32 and 33, we got the Titans guys going up against the Chicago Bears. Bears defense should be solid, upper echelon, not necessarily upper echelon, but like mid-tier to good tier, right? I wouldn't really fondle the nuts of the Bears, but I also wouldn't say they're straight up trash defensively. Who's going to be the number one running back? My guess right now, if I had to declare something, gun to the head, Nick, you got to pick, it's going to be Pollard, because that's what I read from the beat reporters. But this also feels like a 50-50 split, right? I think Tajay's better at pass catching. I think Tony Pollard's better at running. I think in terms of goal line utilization, Tony Pollard literally couldn't score a touchdown with the Cowboys offensive line. Right? He could not score. They would part, the Cowboys offensive line would part the Red Sea, metaphorically, Moses style, and Pollard still couldn't get into the end zone. So, like, what are we really expecting here in Tennessee on a more pass-heavy version of the Titans? It's not the old Titans, your old Titans with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. Yippee, winning all these games. Shout out to my boy Ryan Tannehill. Shout out Derrick Henry. But this is a different team. I like the coaching staff they brought in. But again, are we really going to bet on Tony Pollard after Tony Pollard had his fist shoved up our ass last season? The answer to that would be, fuck no, baby. 34, we got another guy that fisted you. And this dude didn't even bother bringing any Crisco. He didn't even put some Vaseline on his hand before he made you into a Muppet like Kermit the Frog, right? Austin Eckler was bad last season. Didn't look like himself. Literally looked terrible. Bottom of the barrel play. Now, Austin Eckler, just a year removed from that, was one of the best running backs in the NFL, an amazing pass catcher. Let's see which version we see. I'm not here to shit all over him, but frankly, why would I rank him higher based upon what I saw last season? 35, we got the Gus Bus. All of these guys inside of the E tier, I would really not want to start these guys. Tier 5, the D tier is kind of the cutoff of the guys that I would be comfortable playing. So this tier, wow, we didn't do anything wrong, I guess, right? Because you probably just have, you have like the elite quarterback, you have the elite tight end, you have a elite wide receiver core, right? So you're fine. But the running backs, they're suspect. They're a suspect as they get. Gus Edwards could be the running back 1, could be the running back 2. We know the Chargers want to run the ball. Gus Edwards probably going to be the goal line back. So you could luck into a touchdown, which is why I have him ranked here, not J.K. Dobbins. 36, we got Warren. If Warren was, 100% healthy, and I really felt like, hey, this is going to be the true split like we're going to normally get, then Jaylen Warren would be bumped up a ton, because I really do think the game plan, the MO for the Steelers here is going to be running the ball a lot up against the Falcons, but not knowing, because, he's going to play. More than likely, he's going to play. I'd say probably a guarantee. But we don't really know how much he's going to play, right? Playing is different from playing, right? He's kind of just, he might be out there getting a couple touches, right? Cordero Patterson might see some touches. So Warren's the kind of guy, revenge game for Cordero Patterson, the kind of guy that I just don't really want in my lineup, but I'd probably start him over Chase Brown. But even that's like 50-50. Chase Brown should be getting a decent amount of run in this game, because I do think the Bengals are going to run train here, and they're going to kind of tag team with Zach Moss and Chase Brown. But I have seen Zach Moss put up multiple solid games just last season. Chase Brown's kind of had that one really big catch. He's had the flashes on the screen, Girls Gone Wild style, but he's never really done it at a consistent rate, which Moss has done. So that's what leaves me with Chase Brown in the E tier and Zach Moss up inside of the D tier. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button like it owes you some money, John Jones style. Make sure you guys leave a like on today's video. It'd help me out a ton. Let me know in the comment section what you guys thought about today's video. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know. I love you guys all so much. I hope you all have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, check out one of the videos on your screen. Check out the Patreon. Check out Underdog Fantasy. Good boy.